Hey guys, what's up? Rich Ripper Studios here, and you're watching Rich Boy J.
Hey guys, it's Rich Boy J here back with another video, and this is going to be episode 17 of Your Questions Answered. Your Questions Answered is the Q&A series that I do on this channel, so if you want to see your questions answered in the video, go ahead and leave a comment in the comment section. Make sure it's Lego Star Wars or Lego Star Wars related, and then check back next week to see if you made the cut. Shout out to Brick Trooper Studios for that intro. Once again, guys, if you want to see your own custom intro at the beginning of these videos, just send it to me as an unlisted YouTube video, and if it works out, I will put it in the introduction. Make it funny, be creative, do whatever the heck you want with it. Use it as a time to advertise yourself. I don't care. I'm just looking for interesting, cool things that you guys submit to put at the beginning of these Your Questions Answered videos. So make sure you go ahead and do that. Let's dive right into the questions. First question today is by Forever Lego Studios. He says, great video, Jay. I definitely agree with your comments on Cloud City. My question for the week is, what is the number one mock you would want to build but can't? I've answered this question a lot in a different kind of version insofar as people usually ask, if money weren't an option, what mock would you make, or what's your ultimate mock to make? But this is a good question because I'm going to take it in a different direction. I think what he's kind of getting at is what is one impossible mock, whether it be due to money or size or whatever, that you would like to build but just simply would never be able to. And honestly, the one that comes to mind is a minifigure scale Star Destroyer, and the first order one to be exact. Now, obviously, I would need a warehouse to be able to build this thing in Lego, and it would be absolutely insane for, to have a minifigure scale Star Destroyer. But even if I wanted to build something close to it, the main important thing for me would be to be able to build it big enough to where you could have the hangars on the side as well as the main TIE fighter bay at the front of it with the Lego sized TIE fighters and still have it look like a decently sized mock. So that's the biggest thing for me. And I would just need to build the thing so freaking huge to be able to do that. A more reasonable thing that I could actually probably be able to do would be maybe a half minifigure scale Acclamator class Star Destroyer. That would work out pretty well in my opinion, just because you'd be able to integrate the Lego set ATTEs with it and have tons of troops marching to the inside of it. So I think that would complement a battle scene really well, having a giant Acclamator parked somewhere and then having the troops kind of unloading from that. So that's something to consider down the line. I've always played with the idea of doing a big ship build rather than just kind of a landscape, but one that would take up a few tables. It would obviously require a ton of pieces and a ton of framework to make it structurally sound, but it's something that I've played around with, and I really did appreciate this question just because it's always interesting to think what would you build if what is the one thing that would be totally impossible to build but that you would just like to build anyways. So moving on to the next question, it's by Baramba. He says, what kind of improvements do you think Lego Star Wars sets will have 10 to 20 years from now? This is a good question because right now I feel like we're seeing so many improvements that 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we never would have imagined we would see in Lego Star Wars sets, whether it be things getting side leg printing and kind of weird stuff like that, dual molding even, just things that, were kind of unprecedented before, but now they're kind of becoming the norm. Even though these things seem to trickle into Lego Star Wars a lot more slowly than we'd like, it is still cool to see them coming into it. So honestly, down the line, I would like to see things arm printing, maybe even side leg printing kind of become the norm when it comes to Star Wars figures. And I feel that's kind of where they're trending. Right now arm printing is kind of a special thing, but when a character calls for it, specifically someone like Rey, when it comes to her armbands, I don't know what you'd call them, but the things with the exposed shoulders, as well as Finn on his jacket that he gets from Poe with a pattern on the side of it, and just various things like that, like pockets on the jumpsuits for the X-Wing pilots. Things like that should kind of become the norm. It is kind of annoying that they only include things like that in the UCS set. So it's you have two snowspeeder pilots that have the arm pattern on the side, and then every other one doesn't look like that. I think that down the line I would like to see some sort of standard with those details, and every figure just has them. That way you can kind of build a more well-rounded collection, and there's no really special initial figure, and then all the other ones just like aren't as detailed as that one. So I would like to see that. Moreover, I do think like it really will be interesting to see like what they could come up with down the line to make minifigures look better than they do. I feel like we're reaching a point where minifigures are looking like I can't imagine minifigures looking that much better than they do without them just adding details that aren't already there. Things like leg printing and or side leg printing and arm printing. So it definitely will be interesting to see what they do down the line. I think that like the creation of things such as those medium-sized legs will prove really important because I think there's characters in Star Wars that could really benefit from them. For instance, like Ezra from Rebels, the Gamorrean guards are one that also comes to mind. Watto, people like that aren't deserving of the really short legs, but the medium legs will work really well for them. The skirt piece as well. I think that down the line, I would like to see the episode 4 version of Leia redone with the skirt piece rather than the legs. I think that would make the most sense for that character. And probably some other characters as well. Of course, we can probably hope to get a hairpiece for Jyn Erso at some point. Don't think I forgot about it, guys. Hashtag justice for Jyn. Let's get Jyn Erso her actual custom molded hairpiece in Lego. It needs to be done. It's been too long. Jyn Erso deserves much better than we've been giving her. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that. Let's move on to the next question. Next question is by Ben the Brick Builder. He says, do you think they will blow up the Millennium Falcon in episode 9? I have a pretty decent idea for how they should handle the Millennium Falcon in episode 9 because honestly, I feel like the Millennium Falcon is as much of a character in Star Wars as like the big three, Han, Leia, and Luke Skywalker. Like the Millennium Falcon is probably one of the most recognizable things in all of Star Wars, and as such, it deserves to have some sort of like respectful send-off. I don't think it should just be blown up like any other ship. I think that one way they could, kind of have the Falcon be put off screen but still have it be significant is I think that like whenever the Resistance ultimately gets their victory over the First Order, which I believe should happen in episode 9, I think that Chewbacca should go to Rey and the Resistance and be like, look, my life debt was to Han. Obviously, I felt personal connection to this conflict, which is why I stayed involved with it even after Han died. But now that the conflict is over and Han is gone, I would like to return to my family and live my life out there. And I think that he should take the Falcon with him. It was just as much his ship as it was Han's ship. Like they both, acquired it at the same time. He was the co-pilot, so I think that it should, by definition, fall into his possession. And I think that he should just take it back to his home world on Kashyyyk. And if they really want to down the line, they can do something with it on Kashyyyk. Have Chewie go on some adventures on the Falcon. But we'll rest, I think, really nicely knowing that the Falcon is off with Chewie on Kashyyyk and it went to a really good home. So I think that that's my ideal way for them to kind of get rid of the Falcon. It's obviously an outdated ship, but I think that gets rid of it in a significant way without just blowing it up like any other ship. Next question is by Splat Productions. He says, if you could have been an actor in any Star Wars movie, what movie would it be? I think if I had to choose like what Star Wars movie I'd want to be in and why, I would honestly go with being one of the stormtroopers on Jakku in episode 7. Obviously, I wasn't alive when the original movies came out, so I'm going to kind of get rid of those by default. But I think there was just such an air of excitement. Like some of those initial videos where they are in the desert on the doing the beginning scenes from Jakku when the First Order shows up in the sand, and you just see like how excited everyone is. Like they're the guys dressed up in the stormtrooper armor. And I don't know, it just looks so fun. And of course, I wouldn't have to have my face on camera because I think seeing my face in a Star Wars movie would just kind of throw me off. Like, I don't know, I thought it would be weird. I'd have to really get used to that. But being behind a stormtrooper armor, it gives me the ability to be in the movie without actually, having to. The next question is by a True Boyo, which I have to say is one of the best YouTube usernames that I have ever seen in my life. He asks, do you think that since they made a mini sandcrawler into a normal sandcrawler, they will make a big gunship because of the mini gunship battle pack? I think what he's referring to is we have that recent Tatooine battle pack, and that comes with like a mini sandcrawler. And then pretty soon after that, we got a bigger sandcrawler. set. And he's saying, because there is like that gunship battle pack, will we get a bigger gunship? One thing to say before I get into the question, though, is the gunship in that gunship battle pack is awful. It might just be the worst build I've ever seen in a battle pack. But beyond that, I think that, yes, it will happen, but not really because of any, like, concerted effort by Lego to make a little version of the ship and then a big version, but for no other reason than because the Clone Wars is coming back next year. The Republic gunship is a staple of the Clone Wars. Like, the Republic gunship to the Clone Wars is as like the X-Wing and TIE fighters are to the original trilogy. So I think that if they're rebooting the series, we're going to have some sort of Republic gunship come out next year as well. So I think you're on the right track, but I don't really see Lego kind of doing that as like a deliberate effort. But who knows? They could be thinking of things like this and I could totally just be disregarding it. So the last part of this video I wanted to kind of leave open as a special topic segment, kind of like I did last time with the Cloud City rant. This is going to be a discussion on Rey and her lineage. I know it's kind of outdated. The Last Jedi premiered about half a year ago, but I think that it is still a relevant topic because there seems to be a lot of people out there who still cannot accept the fact that Rey does not have special parents, and people out there who are really upset about it. So I just kind of wanted to give my thoughts on it, which has kind of inspired the title of this video. Now, I have two kind of arguments to this. I think the first question is, like, does it, in canon, is it necessary for Rey to have special parents? Meaning, like, from what we know about the Jedi, from what we know about Star Wars, because Rey is so powerful, does she need, does it logically need, does logic necessitate her having special parents to kind of explain how powerful she is? And then the second question is, just from a storyline aspect, does Rey need special parents in order for us to feel more connected to the story and to make the story better in that aspect? For the first part, let's talk about the Jedi, right? So from what we've seen in Star Wars, the only lineage of Jedi, the only example in the movies that we have seen of parents who pass down strong sensitivity to the Force, to the Force to their children are the Skywalkers. The Skywalkers are obviously a very special group of people. Star Wars, in most people's eyes, is all about them. And that is kind of what we see in the movies. Like, the Skywalkers pass on their lineage to be strong in the Force. And that is obviously seen in these new movies. However, there's a twist in it in that Kylo Ren is embracing the dark side of the Force. So there's obviously that fulfillment of the Skywalkers there. But I think what a lot of people kind of forget is that literally every other Jedi that we see in the movies, their backstories are not explored at all. In fact, George Lucas made it a point to say, no, the Jedi aren't allowed to love, the Jedi aren't allowed to have kids. And if you look at them just as an institution, why, if it were a given that the Force were hereditary in a sense, why would they as an institution, as people who want to ensure, the galaxy is protected, put themselves in a position where they don't want, powerful Force users to give birth to new generations of powerful Force users? That just wouldn't really make sense from their point of view. But then also, because, we don't see other people's parents kind of explored, it leads me to believe that most of the Jedi that we find in the galaxy are just people who happen to be sensitive and strong in the Force, which I think is fine. A lot of people take issue with this when it comes to Rey because they argue she is so powerful. I think it's more so just because she's the protagonist, and every protagonist we've had in the main saga movies has been part of the Skywalker saga and has been in a position of being special. And I think that it works. I think it works for Rey because it's a different take on the story. Star Wars with the Skywalkers before would kind of lead us to believe that you have to be special to have a place in the story, or at least to have a significant place in the story. But with Rey, they kind of switched that, which brings me to my second point. As a story, does Rey need to be a Jedi in order for the story to be good, or for the story to connect to us more? Rian Johnson decided in episode 8 that he wanted to have Rey face what would be the hardest thing for her to hear, which is essentially that, no, you're not part of some sort of special lineage. And I think that like that's meaningful. I think that adds a lot to the Star Wars lore and just the themes that we learn in Star Wars. The idea that anyone can become a hero is important, and I think that's one of like the facets of of the resistance and the rebels that like resonated with so many people. The fact that these people who really didn't have much of a chance were still able to accomplish a goal and make a difference in the galaxy. And I think that's one of the lessons that Star Wars has been trying to teach us all along. So I don't really take issue with Rey not being part of a special family. I've also noticed a lot of people seem to think that like the decision of Rian Johnson to make Rey not have special parents kind of goes against what JJ set up in the first movie. But I'd like you guys to remember a very specific scene when she's in Maz's castle. When she's in Maz's castle, Maz Kanata sits, well, she doesn't really sit her down, but Maz, she makes her get on her knee and she tells her, like, look, the belonging you seek is in front of you. It's with Luke Skywalker. Your parents that you've been waiting for aren't coming back. And I'm not really sure why this scene seems lost on so many people, but that alone showed me that the story wasn't so much about her having special parents. That was actually one of her flaws. Her need to be be a part of something special in order to feel like she's significant in the galaxy. And her arc is kind of her getting over that and realizing that no matter where she comes from, she can make a difference. So I'm not really sure why a lot of people, one, disagree with her not being special in kind of a canonical sense, insofar as like it doesn't make sense for her to be so powerful and not have special parents, but also to be like angry at Rian Johnson for making this decision when it doesn't really seem to go too much against what JJ set up in the first movie. There's obviously like some interest that is created around her. There's various times in episode 7 where people ask, who is the girl, and you cut away so you don't really see like what the answer to that question would be. But I think that her finally hearing like, no, your parents aren't special, in fact they were pretty crappy people, like that was powerful. And I don't think there's any other answer that would have fulfilled me like that one, just because like her parents could be anybody, anyone could be related to anyone, but like at this point, like what is that gonna do for her, learning that her parents are special? The thing that made her kind of confront her biggest issue as a person was her not having special parents, and I thought that was a very unique twist of what we've learned in Star Wars, and I appreciate them trying new things in that aspect. Every new thing in Star Wars isn't amazing, but I can certainly appreciate the things that do work, and I can appreciate people being ambitious and trying to go for those new things. So that's going to finish up the video, guys. If you want your question in this video, go ahead, leave it in the comment section. Make sure it's Lego Star Wars or Lego Star Wars related. Also, if you like what I do, go ahead, support the video by hitting the like button, support the channel by hitting the subscribe button, and I will be back again very soon.